Global trade is a battlefield, and France just fired back at US tariffs in a move no one saw coming. Your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit dives into the shockwaves rippling through the European Union and the automotive industry as allies rethink their strategies. With 7 key factors at play, we break down France's bold response, its impact on global trade, and what it means for automakers worldwide. Buckle up. This is a trade war like never before. Factor number 7. France hits back at US tariffs, swift and decisive. In early 2025, President Trump greenlit a hefty 25% tariff on steel and aluminum imports, aiming to protect American manufacturers. However, what Washington likely didn't anticipate was France's rapid and unwavering response. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot wasted no time in declaring that France, and the European Union at large, would not stand idly by as their industries faced economic pressure from across the Atlantic. This move has profound implications for the automotive sector, which relies heavily on steel and aluminum for production. With higher material costs, automakers are now grappling with increased expenses, which could mean pricier vehicles for consumers and tighter profit margins for manufacturers. France's countermeasures are a clear message. It won't allow its industries to be undermined without a fight. Factor number 6, strengthening ties with China, a strategic shift. As US trade relations grow more strained, France is forging new economic alliances, most notably with China. The numbers tell the story. In 2023 alone, France-China trade ballooned to $78.9 billion, an astonishing 800-fold surge over 6 decades of diplomatic ties. Macron's visit to Beijing in April 2023 wasn't just ceremonial. It resulted in 18 major cooperation agreements, spanning everything from aviation to agriculture, and, crucially, automotive tech. This pivot could prove invaluable for the French automotive industry, opening doors for joint ventures, technology exchanges, and expanded market access. With China's massive consumer base and its dominance in EV battery production, French automakers could gain an edge, balancing out potential losses caused by US trade restrictions. The lesson here? Diversification isn't just a strategy, it's survival. Factor number 5. Ripple effects on Europe's auto supply chain. Steel and aluminum tariffs don't just hit the bottom line, they disrupt the finely tuned machine that is Europe's automotive supply chain. Materials that once moved freely between suppliers and manufacturers are now saddled with higher costs and trade uncertainties. Airbus CEO Guillaume Faury even hinted that the aerospace giant could start prioritizing non-US customers if tariffs make transatlantic business too costly. For the automotive world, this means automakers might have to rethink their entire supply strategy, finding alternative sources, relocating production, or passing on higher costs to consumers. And let's not forget the wild card. If tariffs push up vehicle prices, demand could plummet, leaving manufacturers in an even tighter bind. Before we delve deeper, do us a favor and smash that like and subscribe button. This helps us reach more auto enthusiasts just like you. Now, let's shift gears and steer towards our next point. Factor number 4. The European Union rallies, a trade war on the horizon. France isn't alone in this battle. The entire European Union is circling the wagons. Macron has been at the forefront, calling for a unified EU response against what he sees as unfair trade practices. And history tells us that when the EU bands together, it doesn't back down easily. For Europe's car industry, this fight is personal. The EU is a powerhouse in global automotive exports, and a drawn-out trade war could disrupt supply chains, inflate production costs, and weaken global competitiveness. While Brussels is keeping diplomatic channels open, it's also laying the groundwork for retaliatory tariffs of its own, just in case push comes to shove. Factor number 3. Shifting gears. France diversifies trade partnerships. With the unpredictability of US trade policies, France and the broader European Union are accelerating efforts to diversify their economic alliances. Instead of relying heavily on American trade, France has expanded its economic footprint in Asia, particularly with China, now its largest trading partner on the continent. For the automotive industry, this shift isn't just about survival, it's about seizing new opportunities. By expanding partnerships, automakers can tap into emerging markets, advance technological collaborations, and reduce risk from U.S. trade volatility. If this strategy proves successful, European manufacturers could reinforce their stability, making them less vulnerable to geopolitical disruptions. Factor number 2, long-term implications for U.S.-EU relations. The ongoing trade dispute between the U.S. and the EU is straining their long-standing alliance. Tariffs imposed by the U.S. have led to EU retaliations, disrupting industries and eroding trust in trade negotiations. This economic standoff threatens future cooperation on key global issues, making diplomacy more challenging. The automotive industry, one of the hardest hit, faces severe consequences. European automakers export hundreds of thousands of vehicles to the U.S. annually, but a proposed 25% tariff could shrink their market access. As a result, manufacturers may shift investments toward more stable markets like China. Beyond autos, prolonged trade tensions could push the EU to strengthen ties with alternative economic partners, potentially diminishing U.S. influence in global markets. Without diplomatic resolution, both economies risk long-term instability, making compromise essential to prevent further economic fallout. Factor number 1, the role of the automotive industry in trade negotiations. The automotive industry is at the center of U.S.-EU trade disputes, with millions of jobs at stake. President Trump's tariffs on European car imports have forced automakers to either absorb higher costs or shift strategies to remain competitive. Major European manufacturers like Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz rely on the U.S. market, but a 25% tariff could make their vehicles significantly more expensive, hurting sales. Retaliatory EU tariffs on American-made cars would similarly impact U.S. automakers like Ford and General Motors, escalating the crisis. In response, industry leaders are pressuring policymakers to find a resolution that prevents further economic fallout. With auto manufacturing representing a key sector in transatlantic trade, the decisions made in these negotiations will not only impact pricing and jobs, but could also reshape global automotive markets for years to come. Final verdict: a high-stakes road ahead for global trade. France's bold counterstrike against U.S. tariffs has kickstarted a new chapter in international trade dynamics. As the European Union shifts its focus toward new economic partnerships, automakers are left navigating the ripple effects. If tariffs continue, Europe may pivot further toward China and other global markets, reshaping alliances and altering the landscape of the automotive industry. Meanwhile, manufacturers must strike a delicate balance, adjusting supply chains, innovating to cut costs, and maintaining consumer trust amid rising prices. But the big question remains: can the US and EU reach a trade agreement before things spiral further? Or are we witnessing the start of a major industry shift that will redefine global automotive commerce for decades? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your take. And if you don't want to miss the next big update in the auto world, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned to Piston Pundit. Thanks for watching and see you next time.